The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected. Republicans united the White House with the first crypto coin bill signed into law. There are still fractures in the party following the president's about-face on the Epstein files.
What we are doing here is making our streets safer for the people of Nashville, and the people of Nashville overwhelmingly support getting criminals off of their streets.
Opposing immigration operations could come with new federal charges. What President Trump would like to see for violent protesters. And the Affordable Care Act, not so affordable anymore. Why insurance premiums associated with the law are about to get a lot more expensive. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. Good Friday evening, and thank you for being here with us. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. We have team coverage from the White House as President Trump signs the Genius Act and the latest on the Epstein files. We'll have more on that in just a moment. But first, flood alerts. You can see right here heavy rain that we are tracking in Louisiana from the remains of the tropical disturbance in the Gulf of America, at times bringing in excess of 2 inches of rain per hour. This flood threat will continue through tomorrow morning with heavy rain in Virginia and West Virginia, also bringing flood watches in advisories. More than 14 million people in all are being warned of possible flooding. First of its kind legislation to regulate the crypto industry has just been signed into law by President Trump, who was a skeptic of digital currency just a few years ago, but is now all in. He says regulation will make America a leader in crypto, but critics point out how much he personally stands to benefit. Joining us now, national correspondent Audra Elnashar.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Crypto week in Washington ending with the president's signature on a rare piece of bipartisan legislation.
The entire crypto community, for years, you were mocked and dismissed and counted out. You were counted out as little as a year and a half ago. But this signing is a massive validation.
The Genius Act sets rules and oversight for the use of stablecoins, digital assets pegged to another currency or commodity like the U.S. dollar or gold.
You're going to have stablecoins that actually are stable.
Both parties agree legislation is long overdue.
We desperately need rules of the road.
The time to reassert American leadership in the digital asset space is now.
This week, the House passed 2 other crypto bills now heading to the Senate. The Clarity Act creates basic market structure for digital assets, attempting to balance consumer protections with innovation. All Republicans and 78 Democrats backing the bill,
including measures to stop snake oil salesmen and fraudsters and hucksters, and puts Trump's family's coin under regulation.
And a more controversial anti-CBDC surveillance act prevents the Federal Reserve from issuing a central bank digital currency without explicit authorization from Congress. Just 2 Democrats voted for this bill. For many Americans, crypto is a novel idea, but this legislation has been 5 years in the making.
We had hundreds of meetings, hundreds of industry participant meetings, roundtables, bicameral, bipartisan from day one.
Now, many Democrats argue that these bills do not do enough to stop political corruption. They point out that crypto holdings like the Trump meme coin have added at least $620 million to the Trump fortune since the election, according to Bloomberg.
Some also raising concerns, as you know, Audra, that these bills could harm consumers and create financial chaos. How?
Well, they point out that there's no real safety net built into these bills if things were to go seriously wrong, like there's safety nets for banks, right? Banks are FDIC insured, but there's nothing like that for stable coins in the Genius Act, even though stable coins now are tied to actual currency or commodities. So if stable coin users were to panic and, maybe there's the equivalent of a bank run, the government now may be pressured to bail them out, again, because they would be tied to the U.S. dollar, for instance. There are also no know your customer requirements for self-hosted wallets, which could allow for anonymous trades, and that could be done for anything, from kidnapping payments to ransomware. The mind can wander of all sort of nefarious purposes for that. But overall, Dee, many Democratic lawmakers wanted more time to close some of these loopholes.
Yeah, and it's all new territory, so it does make sense.
Certainly.
There are a lot of questions and concerns. Yep. Live from Washington, D.C., Atra El-Nashar, thank you so much. The Trump administration's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case took another turn after new allegations were revealed about Epstein's friendship with President Donald Trump in a Wall Street Journal report. As national correspondent Matt Gelka tells us, the pressure continues to build on the administration to release more information about the Epstein files.
A new report from the Wall Street Journal detailing an alleged suggestive birthday letter sent by Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein in 2003, years before Epstein's sex trafficking charges, has enraged the president as the Epstein story continues to dominate the national conversation. Trump allegedly signed the note, "Happy Birthday," and may every day be another wonderful secret, according to the report. The note also had a risque drawing of a woman. The president denied he wrote the note, calling it a fake, and threatened to sue the outlet and owner Rupert Murdoch. He posted Friday, "If there was a smoking gun on Epstein, why didn't the Dems, who controlled the files for 4 years and had Garland and Comey in charge, use it? Because they had nothing." The pivot to fighting the media has seemingly united some of the president's supporters who had pressured the administration to release more information on the alleged Epstein files.
He said, "I don't talk like that. I don't think like that." They're literally making things up. And he's so frustrated by it. The president is the most maligned and attacked political figure in the history of American politics.
The president said he asked his Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce pertinent grand jury testimony as the pressure on the handling of the case builds. She said she'd ask the court to unseal transcripts. But whether or not that happens is a different story. Grand jury testimony is generally kept secret.
That's kind of a large pillar of our criminal justice system, that the actions of the grand jury will be secret, so when no one knows about that. There are, however, when a case is over, certainly, what's called special circumstances where the judge overseeing the case has the power to unseal those grand jury testimonies.
That testimony is just part of the release that a number of Republicans in Congress have been calling for. Kentucky Republican Thomas Massie is promising a discharge petition that would force a vote on the House floor to tell the DOJ to release the complete Epstein files. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
At least 3 people are dead after an explosion outside of a Los Angeles Police Sheriff Department, or I should say a Sheriff's Department training facility. For right now, this is being investigated as a training accident. The individuals killed have not been publicly named yet. The LA County Sheriff's Department did not confirm the deaths, but Attorney General Pam Bondi reported the deaths, citing the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Central District of California. This is a developing story. Stay with us as we update you with the latest information, everything we know, both on air and online at thenationaldesk.com. And here's a live look over San Antonio, where a manhunt is on for 4 suspects who allegedly stole a vehicle before crashing it into a school bus carrying more than 20 people. Apparently this happened yesterday afternoon. 4 people were killed when the bus carrying more than 20 passengers was hit during a high-speed chase involving that stolen car. Several others, including small children, were injured in the crash. 16 victims still in the hospital. According to San Antonio Police Chief William McManus, at least one of the suspects was also armed with an AK-style rifle. Planned Parenthood attorneys are in Massachusetts in a courtroom today trying to keep federal funding flowing. The attorneys say the big, beautiful bill signed into law on July 4th violates their First Amendment rights. The legislation bars Planned Parenthood from accepting Medicaid patients. At least 2 Ohio Planned Parenthood sites have announced they will shut their doors at the end of the month because they will no longer have enough patients to fully operate.
Medicaid was helping preventative care for sexual reproductive health. It was helping people to get birth control. Now that people won't be able to access this care, we'll see an increase in sexually transmitted instances. We will see an increase in unintended pregnancies.
The Teamsters strike in Western Washington is leading to residents hauling their own trash after Public Service workers, one of the largest waste haulers in the region, walked out the job earlier this week. Union members have told their customers to expect pickup delays due to this labor dispute. They blame the company for not bargaining in good faith, while residents are losing patience for being put out.
They're not willing to bargain a fair contract, and instead of realizing that the workers deserve fair treatment, they are making the community take the trash to them.
Just hope this doesn't become permanent, because it's a total inconvenience.
Service workers are demanding better pay, benefits, and working conditions. According to the union, over 2,000 workers are on strike nationwide. A federal judge has opposed the actions of President Donald Trump again, this time ruling the administration's firing of Federal Trade Commissioner Rebecca Slaughter to be illegal. The judge found the move violated removal protections under the FTC Act. Slaughter has now been restored to the position. The White House does plan to appeal the decision. Another staffer who served under former President Biden pleads the Fifth about his mental fitness towards the end of his time in the White House. The Republican-led House Oversight Committee is probing into whether key decisions in Biden's final White House days were actually made by him. She's the third staffer to exercise her Fifth Amendment right and not answer questions. Biden denies he was incapacitated. Coming up, catching the worst of the worst. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem highlighting ICE arrests in Tennessee, who she is calling out for opposing the operations. Also, Texas flood recovery efforts continue. Where things stand 2 weeks after one of the worst flooding tragedies in the history of our country. And then, how cleaning medical equipment is endangering lives of people in Louisiana and possibly around the country. Our Spotlight on America investigative team tells us more.
All of these criminals are evil. They're horrible human beings. They're the worst of the worst. And America is safer because they're off of our streets, because of the work of the individuals behind me, but all of the agents and officials within HSI and ICE.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem in Nashville today to highlight the arrest of, as you heard, the worst of the worst in the country. She said since President Trump has taken office, the Department of Homeland Security has arrested 300,000 and more criminals and illegal immigrants in the U.S. and deported them out of the country. She also called out politicians who are opposing these arrests and standing in the way of enforcement.
One of the open border politicians is right here in this state and is right here in this city. And I'm specifically calling out the mayor of Nashville. Mayor Freddie O'Connell has gone after our ICE individuals and agents that work with HSI. He's openly doxed them, revealed their information to the public, encouraged people to work against them in their efforts to clean up the streets of Nashville.
Meanwhile, President Donald Trump leaving open the possibility of designating certain agitator groups encouraging violence against officials as domestic terrorists. Our national correspondent Kayla Gaskins joins us from Washington with that story.
The Trump administration's crackdown on illegal immigration spurring protests around the country. Some of those turning chaotic and even violent. In Southern California, rocks thrown at ICE agents last week, sending one to the emergency room. And this scene playing out on a bridge connecting northern Kentucky to Cincinnati. And in Seattle, protesters blocking off streets and starting fires.
If you throw a stone at an ICE vehicle or an officer, those days are over. They're going to get out of the car. They're going to arrest you.
The string of incidents spurring speculation. The more dramatic demonstrations are not organic bursts of outrage, but instead organized by groups with other motives.
If the FBI determines there's a foreign or domestic group that's the organizer, would you consider designating them a domestic or foreign terrorist organization like you did with the drug cartels?
I would do that in a minute. I would do that.
Back in June, the FBI Director Kash Patel gave a statement saying the FBI is investigating any and all monetary connections responsible for these riots. According to DHS, assaults on ICE agents are up 830% from this time last year. On Thursday in Dallas, an illegal migrant trying to escape ICE sped away in a van, dragging an ICE agent nearly a block.
The men and women of ICE are heroes. They are putting their lives on the line every day to get the worst of the worst.
LA Mayor Karen Bass doesn't agree.
People have been terrorized and terrified. These masked men without uniforms, unmarked cars, no license plates, jump out of cars with guns and just snatch people and detain them off the streets.
There are currently more than 56,000 migrants in ICE detention centers. More than half of those either already have criminal convictions or have criminal charges pending, according to Customs and Border Protection data. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins, reporting for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Health insurance premiums are expected to increase for individuals buying from the Affordable Care Act marketplace. According to an analysis from KFF, out-of-pocket premium payments will cost over 75% on average. This comes as enhanced tax credits that made coverage more affordable are set to expire at the end of this year. Health care enrollees are expected to drop their coverage, which will possibly create a risk pool for the sick. The increase rates are due to higher costs in healthcare services and prescriptions. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America, and we start in Florida, where an off-duty officer helped save a family from a fiery plane crash.
First thing they said is, wow, there's a plane in the neighbor's yard.
Detective Scott Hanley, a 23-year veteran of Boca Raton Police, had just dropped off his grandkids when a Cessna came falling from the sky, slamming into a tree in a Pembroke Pines neighborhood. Inside that plane, a family of four. Pilot Carlos Balza Cardenas, his wife Fandy Moretz, and their two teenage daughters. Neighbors grabbed whatever they could, a fire extinguisher, a garden hose, and one man handed Hanley an axe.
Oh my God, they're trying to get him out of the plane.
I just took it a few times, hit the window shatters on the top, and we were able to get the gentleman out. I could see there was a female in the front, and she was kind of down on the ground lower, and she was kind of semi-conscious.
Police say the family had been flying home from the Caribbean, but just moments before landing at North Perry Airport in Broward County, the pilot reportedly lost engine thrust and never got a mayday out. Still, through chance, instinct, and something close to a miracle, all four survived.
The fact that you have a community of people who, without hesitation, came out and were, putting their lives at risk and in danger for people they never met before.
Inside of the house is just covered in mud.
Places like the historic Kip Cottage was one of the places that was hit hard. No one was staying there the morning of the flood, but the property is in need of significant repairs. The property is nestled right next to Camp Mystic, a cherished all-girls summer camp where many lives were lost.
Part of the magical place of Kip Cottage is just being able to wake up in the morning and drink your cup of coffee on the balcony and just hear the girls, laughing and cheering. And it was so close that you can hear all of, them singing and walking around and just, it's just so surreal. It's so heartbreaking magnitude.
With victims still missing, the Hunt Volunteer Fire Department has months of work ahead of them.
So strongly about you all.
Chief Lee Poole told me today they vow to find every single victim.
Families that have lost everything, and especially the children from Mystic, everyone's heartbroken for them, and they are showing the most amazing amount of support that humanity can show. And I'm just overwhelmed at the response of the human kindness that is existing here.
A life well lived, a blessing, a special blessing today upon all of those that are gathered here, but especially on your favorite son, Ben Hagan. Amen.
Amen.
Do we have a birthday?
Didn't get enough of being a POW, and Korea breaks out, and he literally sneaks back into Korea. Before you know it, he's on his way to Fort Benning to become a paratrooper, and then from there he goes over to Korea for another 2 years. Today is his 117th jump.
He always tells us that there's 3 things in life that are most important: God, country, and family.
Love to see that. So brave. What a great story. Coming up next year, toxic emissions, how cancer-causing chemicals are being released into communities all across the country, and what, if anything, is being done about it. Our Spotlight on America team has been tracking the impact of toxic chemicals in the air for years. And now we've learned recent testing for a cancer-causing chemical emitted by facilities across the country shows that levels could be much higher than previously reported. National investigative correspondent Angie Moreski tells us more about the data.
So this is our mobile observatory measuring particles and other pollutants, otherwise known as Mom and Pop.
Johns Hopkins engineering professor Peter DiCarlo showed us this lab on wheels being used to investigate toxic ETO gas released into the air in communities across the country.
For ethylene oxide, we saw concentrations of 30 parts per billion.
Which translates to?
Don't breathe that.
The Environmental Protection Agency classified ethylene oxide, or ETO, as a carcinogen nearly a decade ago. Exposure to the colorless gas has been linked to leukemia, lymphoma, and breast cancer. More than 100 facilities across the country use ETO to produce chemicals and sterilize medical equipment and food products, including companies here in Louisiana's so-called Cancer Alley, ground zero for industrial pollution.
We are sick and we are dying.
As part of our years-long reporting on ethylene oxide, Spotlight documented concerns from residents here about high rates of cancer.
We are poor and black in this neighborhood. They figure that no one is going to care, no one is going to look into it.
But DiCarlo and his research partner, Professor Keeve Nachman, did.
This spike reflects when we drove past the facility. We saw the level of ethylene oxide go up,
taking Mom and Pop to Louisiana.
The estimates don't tell the story, but measurements do.
They found even higher levels of ETO in the air than government models estimated.
The difference was striking.
On average, levels were 10 times higher than what's considered safe for long-term exposure, and concentrations in some samples 3,000 times higher.
When you saw the levels that you were getting, what was your reaction?
We were shocked, and we ended up doing another couple laps to make sure that those levels that we saw were real, and they were. We kept seeing those over and over and over again.
One of the things about ethylene oxide that's really important is that it's more dangerous for children to breathe.
Their research comes at a critical time. The EPA finalized new regulations last year to reduce emissions from ETO plants by 90% and require regular testing. But the industry has lobbied against it, citing costs and feasibility. Now, those rules are in limbo after the Trump administration gave facilities the opportunity to seek exemptions earlier this year.
I'm very worried about exemptions. There is a real public health hazard borne by these communities that live near these facilities.
Spotlight on America has been working for months to find out which, if any, ETO facilities have been granted exemptions to the new clean air rules. A closer look at our efforts to get transparency on this issue impacting public health in our next report. For Spotlight on America, I'm Angie Moreski.
Coming up, rewriting the box office record books a year in advance. The new movie that's selling out before it's even finished being filmed. We'll be right back. Box office pre-sales are not new, as more theaters are adopting the practice for early screenings of the most anticipated blockbusters. But Christopher Nolan's newest movie is breaking the mold again, nearly selling out 1 year in advance. The Odyssey isn't hitting movie theaters until July 2026, but 95% of the tickets being sold in select IMAX theaters already sold out in less than 1 hour. Yeah, this is the first movie ever to offer advanced sales this early. Well, it already looks like it's going to be a great one. That's going to do it for us for this edition of the National News Desk. We invite you to join us again this evening as we look into the extreme weight loss videos on TikTok that could be violating the social media site's own policies. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tonight at 10. Have a great weekend.